Glad you could join us. We start off with a breaking news development. Over the last hour, North Korea has fired a missile that passed over northern Japan. We've had no word from Pyongyang, but according to the Japanese broadcaster NHK, the missile broke into 3 pieces, which fell into the Sea of Hokkaido, the northernmost of Japan's main islands. Well, Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said he would do all in his power to protect the public. Earlier, the Japanese government issued a warning to people living in the northern part of the country to take precautions against a possible missile. Well, the South Korean military has also commented, saying it tracked an unidentified missile fired from a location near the North Korean capital of Pyongyang, which flew in an easterly direction. It will be bringing you more on this breaking news development in a moment.
Yeah, we understand that the Japanese cabinet are currently meeting to discuss that situation, and as Rico said, more on that to come.
And we return now to our lead story, where North Korea has fired a missile that has passed over northern Japan. Let's get the latest now from our reporter in Seoul, South Korea, Yugita Lamay. And Yugita, what more can you tell us about this latest development?
Well, the South Korean military here is saying that this is a missile that was launched early this morning, that it flew over Japan and that it broke into a few pieces and landed in the waters. This is also what we're hearing from Japanese media, and the Japanese government has confirmed that the missile did indeed fly over their territory. The Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, has said that he's going to do everything to protect the country from this grave threat, but has called it unprecedented. And this would, Rico, be seen as a very serious escalation from North Korea because, if you remember, about 2 weeks ago, they made a threat of attacking the U.S. Pacific island of Guam. And at that time, they had said they would fire 4 missiles that would fly over Japan and land into the waters around Guam. Now, just on Saturday as well, actually, North Korea conducted 3 short-range missile tests, but those were conducted in a northeastern direction. The U.S. military said that those launches failed, and they didn't appear to be provocative in the sense that they were actually fired in a direction away from any of the places that they had been targeting. And even the test that they held in July, the intercontinental long-range ballistic missile test that they conducted, 2 of them in July, even those actually they put them on a trajectory which did not pass over Japan. So this is going to be seen as a serious escalation. And what I'm just seeing right now is that the Pentagon in the U.S. has also said that in the last 90 minutes, North Korea has conducted missile launches, and we're waiting to hear more on what the U.S. government and U.S. military have to say.
And of course, a statement from U.S. President Donald Trump, Yugita, who earlier this month said that North Korea will experience its fire and fury if indeed this tensions is heightened and if they fire more missiles.
Well, that is right. And, the fact that UN sanctions were passed against North Korea and stricter UN sanctions, it triggered a war of words between Washington and Pyongyang. And, the statement that President Donald Trump made was a part of that war of words. But what we've actually seen over the past week, we haven't seen as much rhetoric coming from North Korea, which to some extent signaled that perhaps, things were cooling down. In fact, last week, Donald Trump said, Kim Jong-un has finally started respecting us. Even the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, had said that he thinks that diplomacy is finally beginning to work and North Korea is beginning to back off. But clearly, this latest missile test that they've conducted, is certainly not an indication that they're backing off, especially given the fact that it has flown over the territory of Japan. It will be seen as a very serious threat. At the moment as well, the U.S. and South Korean forces are conducting military drills, which they do every year, in August. And at this time, we also always see some kind of provocation from North Korea. Last year, shortly after these drills, North Korea actually conducted a nuclear test.
Thank you so much for the update. In Seoul, South Korea, Yogita Lamay. And joining us now from Washington is Doug Powell, Director of the Asia Program at the global think tank Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Mr. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. What do you make of this latest launch of North Korea over northern Japan? Is this act, in your view, more provocative than previous short-range missile launches?
Yeah, it's clearly more provocative. It's not outside the range of things they are threatening to do in response to the command post exercise Ulchi Freedom Guardian that's taking place in South Korea now. The earlier firing of 3 missiles into the area waters east of Korea seemed to be a very modest step in light of the degree to which they've been trying to draw attention to themselves. And so more details need to be known about the technical aspects of this, but flying over Japan and emboldening themselves to do something as risky as that is going to really upset U.S., Japan, Korea considerably.
And Mr. Paul, the Japanese military did not attempt to shoot down the missile, which passed over Japanese territory. What should have been done here? Did the Japanese military do the right move?
Well, I believe so, because from the description so far available of the altitude and range of the firing, which meant that the missile went all the way out to almost the midpoint of the Pacific, it would have passed over Japan at a height that would not have been one where they could intercept the missile. The defenses in Japan are designed to fight against incoming missiles, not missiles that are passing at high altitude overhead.
And what kind of reaction are you expecting now from the United States, especially President Donald Trump?
Well, the good news is they did not fire them at Guam, which would have called to account his promise to respond vigorously. So we don't have an automatic quid pro quo to be considering. However, it does embarrass, I think, Secretary of State Tillerson, who had tried to encourage North Korean caution and reward them for not having done something like this up to last week in the aftermath of Trump's threats. So now we're back to what do we do to convince them we're serious? We in the West are serious about the concern we have on this threat. How do you express that? How do you find means to put pressure on North Korea? Those are all very frustrating diplomatic challenges.
Indeed, very frustrating. Thank you so much for your insights. Doug Paul, Director of the Asia Program at the global think tank Carnegie Endowment for International Peace.